Welcome to session number 2 in C programming. In the previous session we discussed about what is C, what is history of C, what is programming language, and we also discussed different types of programming. In today's lesson we are going to discuss language fundamentals. We are going to discuss the programming language, compiler, what is interpreter. We are going to discuss the structure of C program, understanding header files, the main function, and of course we are going to write the first C program. The programming languages. We know there are so many different types of programming languages which are used to instruct the computer to perform some tasks. We use a programming language to communicate with the computer, to give some computer instructions. Basically, the set of instructions or the list of instruction is called as a program. A program is an organized list of instructions which once executed makes a comprise the computer in the predetermined way. Without programs, the computers are useless. We see different types of programs running in a computer to perform some specific tasks. Users use some programs, user uses some software or applications, just like calculator, notepad, pen brush, and so on. These are nothing but some list of instructions, some set of instructions given to the computer for doing some particular tasks. These instructions actually tell the computer how to do the work, how to process the data, and how to display the output in the form you want. So basically, without program, the computers are useless, and the programming languages are nothing but they are actually used to write some set of instructions. A programming language is nothing but it is an artificial language which is used to control the behavior and properties of a computer. It is used to give some instructions to the computer. It is used to communicate with the computer, and we are going to discuss C programming language. Every programming language contains some syntax that refers to the spelling and grammar of the programming language. So here also we want to learn some grammar, some basic syntax of C language. Now what is the use of programming language? To develop some applications like reservation system, banking system, payroll system, to develop some utilities like some predefined APIs, servers to share the data with other computers. Programming languages can be used for system programs, which are the operating system, development of system programs. So many different use are there. We will use these programming languages to develop such kind of applications, some utilities, some systems, some operating systems, device drivers, and so on. There are basically three types of programming languages, so many different types of programming languages. Number one is low level language, another one is assembly language, one more it is high level language. Basically, the low level language is the machine language which is easily understood by computer itself, and it is almost impossible for human to use this low level language because they consist of entirely of numbers, means they are in the form of 010101. We have to understand the computer's language first, and then we have to communicate with the computer with the use of these zeros and ones, with the use of lot of numbers, and it is quite difficult, and somehow it is impossible to understand that language and to communicate with computer using low level language. Because low level language is the machine language, it is a binary language, consists of zeros and ones. Second is assembly language. Assembly language is similar to machine language, but machine language contains only numbers while the assembly language has some characters. Using some characters we can develop some program or some application. Next is high level language, and high level languages are mainly used to develop certain complex applications such as scientific applications, relative applications, mathematical, etc. And the high level languages are basically closer to the human languages. High level languages are somehow similar to English. They are created using English words, some keywords, some alphabets, some symbols. They are closer to human. Low level language is closer to machine. High level language is closer to human. It is made up of some English characters, English alphabets, some languages that human can understand. Procedural or structured language. One more point here we have to understand. Procedural or structured language. It is nothing but the programs which are cut in small pieces of code, okay, where programs are written according to some definite procedure, according to some definite structure, and this technique is very useful to identify the errors, and execution will improve the speed also. C is procedure oriented programming language. C is a structured programming language. It is nothing but the collection of one or more units, either user coded or provided in a library of code. Okay, much like a C language. C language is a procedural or a structured language. That means in C language we can write some user defined procedures, we write some user defined functions, as well as we can make use some library functions or some functions which are already available, which are called as built-in functions. A procedural program is a collection of one or more units, maybe user defined units or library units. Each unit is actually made of one or more procedures which are also called as functions. Okay, maybe a routine, subroutine, method. Okay, according to the language there are so many different names, but anyhow these are all units, user coded units or library of code, and these units can be used to create a program or to create a software. For example, Pascal, C, PL, okay, Visual Basic, these are different examples of procedural or structured languages. There is one more point, it is 4th GL or 4GL, open shortened to 4GL, often shortened to 4GL, 4th generation languages. 4th generation languages are programming languages which are closer to human languages than high level programming languages. The majority of the 4GL are used to reach databases. Okay, we will talk about C language actually. Okay, just to refer some types of programming, some points are noted here. High level language, low level language, assembly language, okay, some procedural or structured language. Now we will see what is a compiler and what is an interpreter. We know that whenever we write a program in C language, it is not possible to execute that program directly, because our program contains some code that is closer to human only. Computer will not understand these instructions. So we need some program called as a compiler. Each program is written in human language, but it will not be understood by the computer, because computers can handle only binary data. They can process only binary information. So we have to use some compilers or interpreters. A compiler is actually a special program which takes processes written in certain particular programming language and transforms them into machine language. The job of compiler is to convert the source code into object code, to convert the code written in a particular programming language into the code that a machine can understand, that the computer can understand. Whenever we compile our program, the compiler will check the entire program, whether there are errors or not. If there are errors, your program will not compile. Okay, if the program is written perfect, then only your program will be compiled. And if there is no error, the source code will be converted to the machine code. C language is a compiler based program. That means every program written in C language must be compiled before we want to execute it. So in the previous session we discussed the workflow of C program. First we write the program in a form of a source file, and this source form is converted to OBJ, object code, that contains the machine code actually. And this transformation, this conversion is done by the program called as compiler. The next point is interpreter. Interpreter is similar to compiler, but it will check only one line at a time. Compilers actually check entire program, and if there is no any error into the entire program, then only the program will get compiled. But interpreter performs the checking line by line. It will not execute the program entirely, it will check line by line only. If any error occurs in the particular line, the execution will stop at that particular line. This property actually makes the interpreter slower than compiler. Compiler will first scan the entire program. If there is any error, it will notify for that error. And if I fix the error, then only it is possible to compile the program, and after that only we will execute that program. In simple words, I will say compiler compiles the program by checking the entire program, and interpreters compiles the program by checking line by line. Interpreter will verify the code line by line. This is the difference. Now, what is the structure of C program? Many programming languages such as C, C++, Java, Pascal, COBOL, all the programming language have certain standard format which would be followed by the programmer. In same way, the C language also has some standard structure, which is used to develop any program. This is the standard structure. First, we have to write some include statements. Actually, it is called as preprocessor directive. We have to include some header files. After that, if required, we can declare some global variables, and there should be a main function. The main function is always the entry point of the function for every C or C++ program. Basically, C program or C is nothing but it is collection of functions. Sometimes we can define our own functions, or sometimes we can make use of some library functions or some predefined functions. So this is the structure of C program. First we have to write hash include statements. After that, if required, we can put some global declarations, and then we can define the main function, and inside the main function, using these curly brackets, we can provide the statements, the declarations or some statements that we would like to execute whenever the program is launched. So in this syntax, we mentioned including header files, which means we have to include the header files. The second line was global declaration, which will indicate that a function or variable can be declared and accessed anywhere in the program. Sometimes we want some local variables, and sometimes we want some global variables. Now, what is actually global variable and what is actually local variable, that we will discuss after some variable part. Let's first understand what is variable in the next session, and then only we will come to know what is global and what is local. So anyhow, local declarations can be done in the program, and of course the main function, which is the necessity of every program, because the execution will start only from the main function. Whenever the application is launched, the runtime system will first look for the main function. The main function will be executed first, and then whatever statement we write into the main function, they will get executed. Following the main function, we use the curly braces, and which are the parts of start and closing of the program. Means they indicate the start and end of the program. And whatever statement we write inside the curly brackets of main function, they are nothing but the goal of the function, the task that we want to perform. It can be written inside the curly braces of main function. Now, what are header files? In every program, I told you we have to include some header files. What are header files actually? Header files are library files. Header files are library files. This is the collection of predefined functions which are necessary for the operations of a program. Actually, we wanted to perform different types of operations. Like sometimes we want to perform some input operation, sometimes we want to perform some output operation, sometimes we may want to perform some mathematical operation, some string related operations we want to perform. And to perform different types of operations, there are some standard libraries there are some definition files, there are some library files which are actually used to define so many functions. We can create also our own header file. We can create our own definition file or dictionary file, and we can use that dictionary or library in different programs. So the header files are the collection of predefined functions necessary for the operation of a program if it is in the section written by the user of code or as an element of standard libraries. C language, the names of header files actually finish with a .h. For example, stdio.h, conio, conio.h, dos.h, lib.h, stdlib.h, string.h, math.h. So many header files are available. So these are different examples of header files: string.h, alloc.h, time.h, conio.h, ctype.h, stdlib.h, graphics.h. So different header files are there. Some short description is also displayed here. As per the requirement, we have to include the appropriate header file at the top of every program. Now what is main function? The main function is the entry point of the program. Every C program, all C program must have main function. The execution of program begins or starts with the first statement of main function only. And the main function will call usually other functions coming from the same program, or it can invoke other functions that are available in the library, that are stored in the library already. Now we have to note one point here. Like other functions, main function can also have parameters which are actually called as command line parameters. This chapter we will see in some future sessions. There is very important program point here we have to note down, that is command line arguments. Command line arguments means the parameters that we use for the main function. Just like other functions, for main functions also we can use some parameters. Now first we will discuss functions chapter, and after functions chapter we will come to know what is the use of command line arguments. Right now just we have to note one point, like other functions, the main function also can use some parameters. Without having main function, we cannot execute any program. That means every program must contain a main function which is the entry point of the program. Now this is going to be the first C program. Okay, this is first C program. Today I am going to write this first C program for you. To write this program, I open Turbo C. I am here creating a Turbo C program. File menu, new option, and here I will write my first program. Usually before we start writing program, we put some heading, we put some declaration, we put some header. Okay, suppose here I am writing some comment here, printing a text on screen. This is my program heading, and program heading is actually written using some slash star and star slash, which is actually called as a comment line. And after that I am starting here hash include stdio.h, hash include conio.h. This part of the program is called as preprocessor directive, or this part of the program is called as link section, where we are linking, where we are including the contents of two header files. Number one is stdio.h and number two is conio.h, conio.h. Actually we wish to use some functions that are defined in these two header files, so I am including these two header files at the top of my program. Next point is void main. We know main function is the entry point of the program. This another keyword void is actually one return type for the main function. Now what is return type, what does it return, and to whom does it return, everything we will discuss in some following chapters. Right now in this program I am going to write my first statement. My first statement is CLR SCR. This CLR SCR is nothing but this is a call to a predefined function. This is a call to a predefined function. This function is already available in conio.h header file, console input output.h header file. And the purpose I am using this function clr here to clear the screen. It is used to clear the screen. Right now I am typing some comments. Okay, using the double slash we can insert some comments, and comment is not part of the program, which will not execute. Comments will be ignored by the compiler. The next function I am typing here, printf function. Printf function, hello world. Printf means print the formatted. Print the formatted means print the formatted string onto the console. Okay, whatever we write into double quotation mark is called as a string. And I want to print this string onto the console. That's why I am using some printf function. Printf is another function call. This is another function call. It is a ready-made function. It is used to print string, to print the formatted string onto the console, onto the screen. And here one more function I am using here. There is one more function call. There is one more predefined function I am calling here getch. This getch function is declared or defined in conio.h header file. And the purpose I am using this getch here to get one character from the user. Just we want to pause my output screen. I want to pause my output screen. So at the end I am using the getch keyword. Now what are the steps to execute this program? Right now the program is written perfectly as per the structure I am writing the program. And after you write your program, you have to go to file menu and click on save option. Click on this save option and write some name for your file. Usually we have to save this file on C drive. So I write here CPrg1.c. Rather you would have some folder on C drive. Suppose you have some folder on C drive, you can write something called as C drive disha slash some file name .c. This is how also you can save your files. But right now I am interested to save my file on C drive. So I will mention here CPrg1.c. This will save me the file. Click on OK. The file will be saved and you will see the file name at the title bar here for your program. So the first step is save the file. Second step is to go compile menu and select compile option. We know what is compile. Compile means to convert the source code into machine code. It creates actually one more file called as a .obj file. You can see here the total lines compiled are 471. Actually in my program I am writing only 3 statements. Okay, but we compile the program, it says total line compiled 471 because some contents of these header files are also included into the object file. I am calling some library functions here, and these functions are defined in these header files. So whenever I compile the program, some contents from the header files are also included here, and these lines are also compiled and one object file will be created. In the previous session we saw where the object file is stored. The object file is stored on tc folder bin directory. Tc folder bin directory, you will see there will be some object file. Here you can see cprg1.obj. This is the object code. This is the object file. And now we want to run this program. And to run this program, go to run menu and select run. This command will first create the exe file, .exe file, and then this file will be invoked, and this is printing hello world. Now basically it is executing all the 3 lines. Okay, when I run this program, first statement is executed. That means it has cleared the screen. That means we can see the entire screen blank. There is no old output. The second statement was printf, which is printing the string hello world. And right now you can see the cursor is blinking. It is asking to complete the third statement getch. Until I press any character, the program will not stop. When I press any character, the getch function will get that character, and after there is no any statement, so your program will come to end. So this is my first program, and in this first program I used 3 statements along with some parts are there. The first part, printing a text message, this is a comment line which denotes the purpose of the program, just the documentation section. Second is hash include stdio.h. This is actually a preprocessor directive which is used to include this header file, okay, which contains the standard input output functions like printf. Void main is the entry point of the program. Every program execution starts from the main function, which should be enclosed with the pair of curly braces. And this void is a keyword which indicates that the main function should not return any value. Void is actually a data type. It is a return type which indicates that the program doesn't return any value. Printf hello world. This statement is used to print or display some information to the console. So this is about session number 2. In this session we discussed what is programming language. Programming languages are actually tools or mediators or mediums to communicate with the computer. There are so many programming languages using which we can write programs. In short, we can write instructions, and the set of instruction itself is called as a program. We discussed what is the use of programming language. Using any programming language like C or C++ or like Java or something called as C#, we can develop applications like reservation system, banking system, payroll system, some utilities, some servers, or some system programs such as operating system. So many different things we can develop using C language. We discussed some few points about types of programming languages: low level language, assembly language, high level language. Low level language is closer to computers. High level language is closer to humans. Assembly language use only characters. Procedural language actually use some procedures. Procedure means nothing but functions, either user defined functions or call to predefined functions. Just like here in this first program, what we are doing, we are just calling the predefined functions. These functions are different units. One function is one unit of so many different instructions which are executed repeatedly. No need to repeat the code. Basically, functions and procedures are used to provide reusability, and that's why they are called as procedural or structured language, where every program is written according to a specific structure. We discussed what is compiler and what is interpreter. Compiler compiles the entire program, it checks the entire program at a time, and interpreter checks line by line. This is the difference. We discussed the structure of C program, and according to the structure we wrote the first program, and even we understood the use of header files. Different names of header files we mentioned here. The main function, which is the entry point of the program, whenever our application is launched, the runtime system will first look for the main function to execute. And here is the first program number 1. Just to print some text message, we have written some few lines of code. So this is session number 2, end of today. We'll stop it here. Thank you very much.